Schools Work podcast, a podcast for everyone in education. This show is brought to you by the Southern Regional Education Board. At SREB, we believe that every school has the potential to be great. Whatever you do in the school, whatever your job may be, let's talk about things that make schools work.
Welcome back to the SREB Making Schools Work podcast. I'm Dan Rock, and today is our flashback, reflection, and review of our different themes and ideas that we've talked about over the last semester. I'm joined today with Jason Adair, our Director for Instructional Programs, and with Ashley Shaw, who is our Program Manager for Communications. And our goal today is to think about some of the takeaways and some of the different ideas that we've heard and maybe look at them differently, interrogate them, sort of have a conversation around what we learned and what maybe are some different ways of thinking about some of these examples. How are you today, Jason?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's been a great season so far.
Ashley, how are you? Welcome.
I am great. How are you?
Wonderful. So both of you have either participated in and listened to all of our episodes. We've worked together as a team to decide which schools to talk to, what we want to talk to them about, what would be the best things to highlight. We've heard from CTE centers. We've heard from CTE centers that are trying to do academics, elementary schools, high schools, all kinds of schools from Mississippi to Alabama to Georgia, North Carolina. We've been all over the place with this podcast. So what I'd like us to do is think about some of the really standout ideas and talk about what they were and what teachers and leaders might be thinking about as they try to implement these. So Jason and Ashley, we heard from a school in South Carolina, Westside High School, and they created a team of teachers called the Visible Learning Team. And every month they spent half a day planning PD. And from that planning, they then spent another entire day leading PD, in which they would teach teachers strategies from the Visible Learning playbook. And then the principals would lead and follow up with teachers. So that is something that we've actually seen in several schools. And we've seen it at high levels and in schools just trying to start it. One of the things I always hear about is time, right? This principal, he decided that he was going to really take teachers out of classrooms for a significant amount of time in order to teach each other and learn together. Why is that hard? Why do you think that's so hard for teachers and leaders to do, to create those kinds of teams?
I think, number one, and you said it, is time, right? So teachers' time is valuable. We don't want to take teachers out of the classroom. So this is it's a cost to have that leadership team out of the classroom for that half day to plan that professional development. So I think sometimes principals are weighing, is that time worth it or not?
And some schools don't have substitutes.
Right. It's a good one.
And it's also so if you don't have substitutes now, it's a hardship on other teachers to bring those kids into your classrooms if you disperse them. So it's disruptive.
But also, that's from the leadership point of view. From the teacher point of view, they also often don't want something else on their plates. They don't want to be asked to do more PD or to help with the PD, anything like that, because they already have so much that they're doing. Give me time to create a lesson plan instead of planning a PD. So
that they shouldn't be on that team if that is their attitude.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to find the teachers that want to do it. I'm not supporting that. I'm saying I understand it.
I think that just
from its point of view.
Yeah,
that could just be a barrier, right?
Yeah, recruiting the teachers who feel it's worthwhile. And I know a lot of teachers don't necessarily see themselves as leaders. And there's a challenge is, why you and not me? So now all of a sudden in that school, we have a group of people who've been selected as the visible learning team. And I know that, politics in schools and peers teaching peers, one, I think Ashley's right. Some teachers don't want to have the extra work. And then it's like, why that person over me, a teacher might think. And you create this sort of internecine issues that can come up.
Yeah, as a teacher, I would both not want the extra work, but also want to be selected so I could feel important for being selected. So I'm the problem.
A lot of teachers, like the traditional way that we do PD in schools is we have an expert come in, share their expertise, whether that's the district coordinator, the outside contractor, or somebody, and then that's it. Or maybe there's follow-up that it checks to see if the people are doing the thing that the expert said they should be doing. Whereas in this school, they're saying, nah, we're good. We're the experts, or we're going to use the book as the expert. And then we're going to try to teach that to ourselves. And they found it very effective. I'd be interested to see, the next year, right? How that keeps going. Jason,
Well, and I think that model, the first model you mentioned, leaves teachers feeling like PD has been done to them.
mm-hmm.
And that is, while you're getting an expert, you get haphazard or spotty implementation because they didn't have any buy-in. This model, in one of the quotes from the thing said is, if I leave West Side, I'm leaving education. I love this place.
Right.
Before PD was top down, exactly what you said, right? After SREB, the information came from our peers. And so I think if we want buy-in to PD and we want teachers to implement new strategies and tools, having it come from their peers has a lot of value. Very much like the classroom, right? Like as a teacher, how many times did you tell your student, teach something, and then one of their friends sitting next door says exactly what you just said? And the student now is like, oh, I get it now. And you're like, are you kidding me? I think it's the same thing. Some expert comes in from the outside, delivers something, how to get your kids, how to question better, how to get kids to talk in class, whatever it is. And you just sit on the shelf. And then one of your colleagues says, oh, this is what I tried in my classroom and it worked really well. And you're like, well, I should try that too.
To be clear, we highly recommend bringing in outside experts. Such
Absolutely.
as your great coaches at SREB. We're not talking about them. We're talking about all the other ones out there.
Or building capacity, like letting experts build capacity, and then letting the teachers have a role in that professional development.
I've recently trying to do a coaching cycle where in the first semester, I led the PD, I modeled, and then teachers are bringing in artifacts. And then we're going to, go to classrooms. And my goal with the school is next semester, based on the artifacts that are brought, say, okay, this teacher, you guys are the rock stars. You're the ones who are doing some innovative stuff. I want you to lead this PD at the beginning of next year, and then teachers come to your classroom. So I sort of was the guy, but in the plan that I made with the principal, I want them to be the guy and try to build that in. That was sort of inspired by this episode.
What a great model for a consultant, right? Like our job at SREB, we've always said our job is to work ourselves out of a job. And the only way I'm the only purveyor of knowledge. When we leave, you see the crash. I think the same thing would be said, like one of our jobs is to do that as.
Yeah. I'm on record as saying I don't want to work myself out of a job.
Just at that school. So you can go to a new school, Dan.
No, I want to work myself into more work at that school because I solve one problem, but schools are so complicated that there's an infinite number of problems for me to help them solve. That's the way I look at it.
Sure.
By job, I'm pro. One other thing. There's another school we are going to talk about, and I'll just mention them now. I want to mention another school called Richland Middle High School, because they had a similar thing where they gave teachers opportunities to do their own book study. And the other school that we talked about, West Side High School, they, taught each other. Are we sure that if we let teachers choose, they're going to choose the right thing? And I know that sounds arrogant and highfalutin from Mr. SREB guy who's not in the trenches with the teachers. My wondering is, do they have the perspective and the insight of a school-wide problem of practice and reflection in order to really zero in on the things that the kids actually need? Are we confident that they will make the right choices?
I think of that episode with the leadership team. That leadership team was not comprised of only teachers, correct?
Correct.
The principal had a voice, or the assistant principal had a voice in that room, so they could help provide that perspective that the teachers don't necessarily get. Right. And so I think it's a collaborative effort. I don't think this is something where the principal's like, okay, I formed my leadership team. Now I'm never going to be involved again. They have a hand in it, in guiding, maybe steering it a little bit, while allowing teachers to have the autonomy to make decisions. A leader doesn't want to be too heavy-handed, but they do want to, I don't want to end up having a book study on how to weave a basket. I don't know.
Well,
right?
yeah, that definitely would be off task in terms of education.
Right.
I think that if in the first one, you had West Side High School, where they had a chapter a week, and every week they did the PD on that chapter. So that was very structured. That was this teacher choice was, how are we going to teach ourselves this content? In Richland, Mississippi, they just decided what they were going to learn. Now, to your point, I believe there was an administrator on every team.
Mm-hmm.
There was an administrator present or part of each book study. And I do think they had a role in steering those books and helping, being an informed advisor and being a part of that, what we think. And maybe even she gave them a menu. I don't really recall exactly if she gave them a menu or not. But you're right. I think there needs to be some leadership around the what. So it's you can give voice and choice without it being a free for all.
I think there's something to multiple voices coming together, because I think they each know they know certain things. They don't know certain things. Obviously, if the teachers knew it all, they wouldn't need PD. So it's hard to pick. You don't know what you don't know, like we said in another episode. So it's hard to pick PD for yourself, I would imagine. But also you do have a perspective on what's happening in the classroom that maybe the leaders don't have, and so offering that perspective and combining it with the leaders, I think that's good. So,
yeah. And because that's what leadership is.
Right.
It's not abdicating and saying, do whatever, but it's also not saying it's my way or the highway. It's giving them that voice and choice within a set of, this is a vision we have for our school. These are our overarching goals.
It's that roles of a leader where you're either a chess master or you're a gardener. The chess master controls every piece on the board. And then the teachers feel like PD is being done to them versus the person who's going to remove the weeds and fertilize the soil and do all the things to make conditions ripe for growth. And that's what we're seeing at these two schools, is these leaders creating an environment where the teachers want to grow as professionals and work together to do that. And you're seeing that, from when the teachers got to speak on the podcast, they were so excited to be part of these schools.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super exciting for us as we go in and out of schools all the time. Not always do I run into a teacher that's like, man, I love being at this school. You know what I mean? And so that's an encouraging, that's why we want to highlight schools like this on our podcast, because we want all schools to be places where teachers want to go.
So let's shift gears for a second and look at the school was called Career Academy of Decatur in Alabama. And they had a very specific purpose for existing, which was to infuse workplace skills and into academic content. In most schools, in a traditional high school, it's reverse. The career tech teachers are told you need to build some reading, you need to build some math, maybe even some science into your content. And in this one, the academic teachers, the English teachers, social studies teachers are told, we want you to infuse academics. And in that episode, they talked about their journey and how they struggled with even understanding what it was that they were supposed to do. Big picture wise, incorporate workplace skills into your academics. Is that something like, as a math teacher, as a math expert, Jason, does that happen a lot in math classes? Like, is that something you see often?
Yeah, I would say no.
When you do see it, like, what does that look like even? Like, what does that even mean? Especially when you get into these advanced mathematics classes. When I think about math in high school, I'm thinking about trinomials, binomials, all kinds of abstract math problems that, yeah, there's word problems, but abstract math that doesn't really seem to connect to anything. You can see how what a great math student I was.
Honestly, you see in advanced math classes is pure knowledge, because like this is the wrestle. One of the differences between the Career Academy of Decatur and comprehensive high school is maybe the missions are a little different. But the interesting thing is maybe we can't spend a whole unit on how to shake hands, make eye contact, and carry a conversation. But can I, as the teacher, reinforce those things when we enter the room? Yes. And that's what I've seen. It's in moments of when you are having a conversation between two people, I'm reinforcing that we make eye contact when we have conversations. When I have a student come up and present in front of the class, I'm not allowing their back to be to the thing and they're talking at the board. They have to face the student. So I think it's purposefully recognizing that my job is not just to teach or science or social studies, but it's to equip kids with a set of skills that are valued in the workplace beyond being able to utilize the Pythagorean theorem to find the height of a length of right? Like whatever the skill, the mathematical skill is, or to know. I mean, I think Beowulf came up in this episode a couple times. There's two purposes. And as a teacher, I don't want to get so lost on one purpose or fixated on one purpose, teaching math, the content, that I lose sight of. There are workplace communication and professional skills that I need to embed within my students as well.
Is it the job of every teacher to build career-ready skills into their curriculum? Should that be the charge that schools give to each teacher in their school? That's the question. You don't have to answer that question. I want to put that question in parentheses and talk about my dad for a second, who was a professor of history for like 35, 40 years. And he always would say, sometimes you just need to learn something to be educated, to be a knowledgeable person who knows things and who understands the world. Reading great books like Beowulf, it doesn't help you in your career, but it helps you be a fluent member of the Western civilization and understand the history. And that's part of character building and being an educated member of society. I wonder if some might say that the emphasis on career readiness might be to the diminishment of some of these more humanities focused skills. Ashley, I wonder what are your thoughts on that?
I think that there's a way to combine that in positioning it through the soft skills like empathy. Reading analyzing and understanding and interacting with classic literature can help, or it doesn't have to be classic literature, reading in general helps build empathy. It helps you understand other perspectives. And I think there's a way, and those are skills that employers say they want, right? So there's a way of showing, I think, students that, hey, we're reading these things. And yeah, you might not have to read this book in a job one day, but you are going to use the skills you develop from reading this in the classroom in those skills and being able to point out why reading helps you develop those skills, why literature helps you develop those skills, and how those skills are going to help you in a workplace. So you can kind of combine it, I think, in that sense. I don't know about math, but from perspective.
I think it's a both and. I think as a teacher, I became a better math teacher when I recognized that I was selling a process instead of the content. They're like, when am I ever going to use this again? And when I started to say, when the content was graphing an ellipse, answer was quite possibly never. But when the answer was, when are you going to construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others? Because that's what good mathematicians do. Or when are you going to reason abstractly and quantitatively? You're going to do that all the time in your life. And so I think when I start to, as a teacher, I'm a salesman, and and lots of times I'm selling a product that they don't want to buy, but are required by law to. And so, like, if I can sell, but you became a better reasoner, a problem solver, a critical thinker. I helped you become more creative today, through today's lesson. I helped you communicate your thinking in concise ways. That's helping you. That's I'm still teaching how to graph an ellipse, but I'm packaging it differently so that I'm helping kids understand why they're here. And I think that's the package helps them see, oh, this is transferable to me as an adult. And I think your dad was probably doing things that, while I agree with him that there's a body of knowledge, there's also some things that we can do that help students be more successful as they enter the world. There are attributes of successful people share.
As a teacher, if you're really looking at the skills, I'm an English teacher, and if you're a history teacher, those two are very humanities content area. That being a good reader and a good writer are essential workplace skills. Whether you're learning writing for work, like, writing a business letter, writing a resume, those are great. But if you're learning how to write well, that's also career prep, right? And you can talk about that without actually having to. Now, this school does an amazing job of making that explicit. And the thing about the school that's powerful is the kids chose it to be there for that.
Right.
They want to go to school in order to be ready to work probably sooner than later. Sooner. So they're in a hurry, in a sense, to get those types of skills. So I think it's always great when you can match a school with a learner, and their goals and what they want. And this is a district that's innovating to find those types of fields. I went to a magnet art school. I wanted to be an actor, and there was a school that taught you to be an actor. And I enjoyed going to school. So this is an example of schools, modifying themselves and finding ways to innovate for the people, for specific populations who might be disengaged otherwise.
Well, that's the transferable piece. Is it might not even be for every single class at a comprehensive high school or at some school, but but it could be that there is a set of skills that I can reinforce as a teacher, and it does not take much time away from teaching whatever the subject matter that I have. It's just something that when students do certain things, they need to act in certain ways.
And that's something you can do school-wide.
Correct.
And every teacher can do, and doesn't have to be academic only.
Hey, we're going to work on making eye contact this week. You know what I mean? Like this month. That's our focus. Teachers, Everybody good? Yep. Every time we're going to, we're just going to draw attention to it. And what
I
we
know.
draw attention to builds the capacity of kids.
And one thing that I find myself doing every semester now with my classes is I do not stand by the principle of all questions are good. I tell them there are bad questions and we're not going to ask bad questions this semester. And we have a whole lesson on how to ask questions to people, how to show that you did your research first. Don't just expect people to do it for you. To word it correctly and appropriately, and don't come to your teacher, your boss, or whoever and be like, hey, I hate this class, can I just not do it? Which is, I've had students do stuff like that. That's not, know your audience. So we have whole lessons on how to ask questions. And it's an English lesson. It's because they're usually emailing it to me. So it's usually written, so it's a writing lesson that I'm giving them, but it's also a life skill and a workplace skill that they can develop. And so things like that just pop up naturally.
Here's a good example. At a high school, the social studies teacher did a project where the kids tried to pass laws, House, Senate, and the principal was the president. So they had to pass a law through the class as the Congress and get the principal to sign it. And they were all relevant school problems that they were trying to solve. So one of the problems they wanted to solve was about electives and the elective choices that they had and the course offerings. And at the end of their presentation to the president or the principal, they were like, well, the administration doesn't care about what we want and doesn't care about us. And he vetoed the crap out of that. And he told them, how dare you say I don't care about you? Know your audience. You just said that we don't care about what you want. That's offensive to the people who you're trying to persuade. How many times in workplace do you get emails from people and their tone and their language is abrasive and confrontational, and your response to that is, okay, whatever, click, delete? Knowing your audience is a workplace skill. And so what I see a school like that doing is being intentional about that, being intentional about building those things. Well, we're going to move along because of our time here. And I want to talk about how schools get kids interested and excited about coming to school. So for 100 years, we've had clubs, right? And clubs is one way to get students interested in school. Back to our friends at Richland High School or Middle High School, they wanted to build time for teacher learning. So they created a flex time where teachers would choose something that they had passion about. So one was like Taylor Swift. Another was drawing. Another was maybe interpretive dance.
And they used Play-Doh and they built national monuments and things.
Okay. Play-Doh, national monument, maybe Legos. So these were not necessarily, this wasn't debate club, right? Some of them might have been, but some of them might have also been Play-Doh. And the question that I'm interested in is are we cool with that? Is it worth it to have not necessarily a cognitively challenging activity to get students interested and, excited or motivated to participate in a school thing? Is that cool? Are we down?
I think a lot of times in my classes, I connect more with the students in the 10 minutes before class starts, where we're just sitting around talking and having fun. And that helps me build the relationship that I have during the class time. And that's 10 minutes. That's us just talking about, oh, wow, did you see the football game? I would never be football with me. I would never watch a football game. But whatever our common interests are that we're talking about in that time, and we get to know each other, and then they feel so much more comfortable. And I feel like having a whole time where I'm just connecting with students off of our combined interests is not only going to make school more fun for them and they're going to look forward to come to that day, but also now we have that connection in the academic class too. So
we hear the word relationships all the time, and it's like you have to have a relationship with the kids. We want to build relationships. It's almost overdone in terms of the emphasis it's given. Or is it overdone? Maybe it really is essential, like a key ingredient. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it humanizes teachers and it humanizes students. And so the better we know our students and the better they know us, and the more they see us as not just a teacher that has interests that are similar to them, I think it increases our capacity to teach and their capacity to learn. And so, yeah, it certainly has a place in education in schools, and warrants the time that it's taking away from academics. Potentially, it actually enhances that time, because now they don't just see Jason Adair, the teacher, or Dan Rock, the teacher. They see the person who loves acting or the person who loves running, whatever,
So what I just said is probably incorrect. Relationships are worth it, the time and effort, and it can be transformational. I had a colleague, Monique Wharton, who used to work with SREB a little bit. She was an English teacher. She was nominated for what we call star teacher in Georgia very often. Star teacher is the valedictorian chooses the teacher that they, you could say their favorite teacher. I don't know what the criteria is, that had the most impact. And the two
whatever you want, because I got to pick a star student at my school. So
you got to pick a star student.
I was the star. I got to pick a star teacher. Sorry. Yeah.
I thought it was it was whoever has like the highest
SAT score.
Yeah. Well, dang, Ashley, impressive. Way to get that in there. I like it. So the star student chooses the star teacher. I was chosen once as a star teacher. So I'll throw that in there. My point that I'm making is that Monique Wharton was chosen to be star teacher. I asked her, Monique, what's the secret? What's the key? How do you get all these teachers to think of you as their, heroes? And she said, I go to their events. I go to the game. I go to the dance show. I go to the event, right? To the concert, to the music concert. So that is relationship building. It's not necessarily having a heart-to-heart conversation, but it's showing that you have an interest in the student, in who they are, in what they do. In this situation, the teachers say, this is what I'm interested in, right? This is what I'm passionate about. And the kids who share that passion or are interested in that passion, or just like the teacher, come to them and they get to talk about it. And it appears to have an impact. Like that school has done a lot of different things. That they believe that has had a lot of impact on attendance, which is one of the biggest problems that schools face, is attendance. I brought myself to the classroom. I tried to do a lot of theater in my classroom. I loved theater, and I would use theater as a teaching tool. I would have students put on little shows based on what they were working on. And this, I think, is an opportunity at that school for the teachers to bring that part of themselves into the school. It's not into their class, but into the school experience. So it's building community. And it seems to have a very positive effect, because they're going to, instead of doing it once a week, they're now going to do it every day. So we'll have to check back with them and see how they're doing this year. Maybe we could have a follow-up episode, Ashley. Check in, a rich middle high check-in. So our last topic I'd like to talk about is data walls, data rooms. Jason, you and I have been in dozens and dozens of data rooms, and they're all beautiful. They have the kids' names, they have dots, they have cards, they have various versions of maybe a whiteboard.
Yeah. Color-coded.
They're so great. So we had two schools that used this. One was the Floyd Johnson Tech Center in South Carolina, and they used it for career courses and tracking completers. He said before this, they had very low completer rating, and they didn't know who was a completer or where they were. And kids would be taking the first year of each course over and over again, or they'd take the same course over and over again, and they didn't know. So Marsha Mosley, our SREB coach, helped him create a room that had each student and what courses they took each year, and just on a little card. And they could see, and they reviewed that each year. School we worked with, Indian Valley Elementary, also was Marsha Mosley. She's passionate about data rooms. If you want to get a data room up, contact us. We'll get you in touch with Marsha Mosley. And other coaches do it as well, but we see it all over with her. And they used it for your traditional on-track data. Our kids actually meeting standards, and they would, focus on certain standards at a time and look at who's meeting those standards. So I think these data walls are powerful. What I see, though, is sometimes they're out of date, and sometimes they are, October data scores, and we're in March. It's hard to maintain that. I'm curious, Jason, what you've seen in terms of like successful data rooms or schools that have done this really well, and if there's any sort of commonality.
I think the thing that separated these schools from some others is this was their thing, right? Like if you have 5 things going on that you're monitoring and measuring, the data wall just becomes another thing, and all of a sudden you're like, well, the next thing got in the way, so this one just sticks up in the wall, to the point where, like, one school I was at, it was like the data wall was like 2023 or so. You know what I mean? It wasn't even the right year. Yeah. And every time I walk in the principal's office, I look over and it says the exact same thing, right? There's no immediacy. I think with these schools, it became the thing, right? They saw the problem and the data wall was the way to fix it. It wasn't just one component, it was the thing. And so I think that's a major consideration I would ask is, if you want to do a data wall, are you going to contribute is it the main thing? Is that going to be the thing that allows you to monitor a problem that you're having, right? And to fix the problem that you're having. If it's not, then I would say, let's hold on that for a little.
So the question is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Did we ask that question?
Yep.
Did we ask that question? Or, and I know this has never happened, but maybe the administrator went to a conference, saw the data wall and said, we're doing a data wall.
Yep.
As opposed to, we have a problem with tracking our kids' data.
Wouldn't it be great if we had a wall where we all would see it and put our little, each name by a student, so every student had a contact, I'll tell you.
If I saw that wall.
If it's answering a problem.
Yeah. If I saw that wall, the question I would ask, which I asked the principal, which it would be, well, we have this all digitally. I can click on any kid and I can see this. We could make a spreadsheet. And it's interesting that they say having the physicality actually makes a difference. But it also creates a lot more work.
There's something tangible about moving a student from this to this, or changing their color from red to yellow, or there's something about that tactile experience.
Yeah.
That visual experience when it's a spreadsheet or I'm trying to think of the thing that you get on computers, or a dashboard, right? Like if it's a dashboard, I have to specifically go to that site. If every day I walk into this one room and I see the wall, it's staring me in the face. If periodically through a PLC meeting, we go into this room, or some meeting, we go into this room and we look at new data that's come in and see if we have to if that changes our data wall at all. That's a physical experience, and that's very different than this passive dashboard that exists.
I think about a principal who had the data room, and I'm pretty sure every time he would lead the PLC with the team, and he would have them update their data wall, their students' data during those PLC meetings. And there had to be a common formative assessment. There had to be a real monitoring process before the data wall was created. Like, what are we monitoring? What is the data? Is it good data? Like, those things have to be discussed and hashed out, and how you're going to update it. Because sometimes it's easy to give it to the instructional coach or the assistant principal and say, I want you to maintain this data wall so we can see the data and we can see their progress. And then that person owns it, as opposed to this other principal who had each teacher update their own students during PLCs and made it part of the PLC process. And you have to be very thoughtful about what the data is, how you're going to collect it, what are the checkpoints, and who's going to update it and when they're going to update it. All of those things really need to be planned before you start, because if you throw up that wall and it says, it's 2 years out, that also sends a message about about sort of how we have great ideas and don't follow through. So I love it, and I think it can be very impactful, but it's certainly not a quick fix, and it's not going to solve your problems. It's a great tool to help you see change and to make sure you're monitoring what matters.
Agreed. Well said.
Thank you. This has been an excellent reflection and review about some of the great practices and schools that we've worked with this year. I feel like we've really seen some transformational. I feel like we've really seen some transformational innovations that these schools have done. And I really hope that folks go back and listen to these episodes that we've talked about and learn more about.
And the ones we didn't talk about.
And the ones we didn't talk about. I want you to listen to every episode that we've ever recorded.
Yes.
And we will be monitoring that, because what gets monitored gets done, Jason.
We have a whole data wall, I believe.
We've created a data wall for everybody, all of our listeners, and we look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we look forward to more episodes. Have a wonderful holiday.
And we'll be back next year. No more this year. Next year.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode brought to you by the Southern Regional Education Board. SREB is a nonprofit dedicated to improving education from pre-K all the way to PhD and into the workforce. Visit sreb.org for resources on instructional practices, teacher data, career pathways, and more. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at SREB-School Improvement and on Twitter/X and Instagram, both at SREB Education. See you next week.